Thank you for watching The Rita Panahi Show. Joining me now is media writer for The Australian, Sophie Elsworth. Well, Sophie, let's start with the ABC. They're at it again, running what looks like a Labor protection racket. Have a look at their questioning for Scott Morrison compared to their questioning of Anthony Albanese.
Prime Minister, you said today that Australians were tired of politics. Could the truth be that they're actually tired of you? Your pitch is one of safe change, but how would Australia change if you become Prime Minister?
Just the same tone there, isn't it, Sophie?
Look, Rita, this is the problem we have with the public broadcaster. Their modus operandi is to kick out the coalition government, and they will do everything they can in the weeks running up to the election on May 21 to paint the coalition and Scott Morrison in the worst possible light they can and give Albanese a soft pass. And this is what we've seen. I mean, some of these questions, and that's just one example, when you tune into the public broadcaster, they seem to go really hard on Scott Morrison and pretty light on Albanese. However, in the last day or so with that stuff up with the cash rate and unemployment rate, the ABC could not ignore that. But seriously, Rita, this is the public broadcaster. They are meant to be impartial, and they're anything but that.
Well, on that infamous day one gaffe, what was the ABC's coverage like? We saw what the coverage was like on most of the commercial networks and newspapers and radio. Did the ABC fall into line and cover that story adequately?
Well, look, Rita, they did obviously have to cover it on their 7 p.m. bulletins. However, I did note on their primetime show, 7:30, they led with basically a package that was a hit job on Scott Morrison. It was just phenomenal watching it. I was like, whoever put this together wants that guy gone. And then they went into the Albanese gaffe. Now, the Albanese situation was story of the day. That should have led their 7:30 report, and it didn't. And then over at Media Watch, well, you think that'd be a pretty big deal. And no, Paul Barry, just as he does, slipped it in at the beginning, what Albanese did, that stuff up. And then he went on to the entire program, basically another hit job on Morrison. I mean, this is shameful, and no one at the ABC is doing anything about this. It's actually a public broadcaster to kick out the coalition.
Well, we saw that on the Bolt report tonight, a package on just how blatant the bias is on the taxpayer-funded broadcaster, particularly that 7:30 report episode. And of course, being taxpayer-funded, they're obliged under their charter to be fair and balanced. And Sophie, what's disturbing here is we're talking about coverage on supposed news programs, not opinion programs. If something was clearly someone's opinion and it's a commentary, then that's one thing. But when you're presenting news with such a sharp slant, I mean, that is not good for any broadcaster, let alone the national broadcaster.
Well, the difference being, Rita, the ABC have to abide by their charter, as you pointed out. And they are not doing that. And nothing has been done. The coalition whinge, they moan about the ABC and their coverage, and they've been in power, nearly a decade, and they've done nothing about it, Rita. So they almost get what they deserve on this.
Now, I've got to ask you about the quills. There's nothing journalists like doing more than giving themselves awards for doing their own jobs, but there's been a bit of controversy with the quills handed out to a sports reporter, which was then withdrawn because there was an apology over the story. Tell us a little bit about that and whether that could set a precedent, and that's what scared them off from removing the award.
So basically, Rita, this is a prestigious award in Victorian journalism. Sam McClure at The Age was given the Sports Award for his coverage on Adelaide Crow's controversial training camp back in 2018, sorry. And then there were issues with the story. To cut a long story short, The Age pulled the stories. They issued apologies over the stories he did on this training camp. Legal action was taken, and then the Age removed the articles. As a result, Sam had his award taken off him. But then the Age fought back and said this is not fair. So they've had an independent review, as we always do in these situations, Rita, and the independent review has suggested that Sam gets his award back. But that leaves Michael Warner from the Herald Sun, who was given the award, taken from Sam, possibly empty-handed. This is an absolute mess.
Well, I tell you, Sophie, I think they were worried about setting a dangerous precedent there, because if you take away that award for a story that's since been debunked or apologised for, well, what about all the awards the ABC journalists have won for stories that have since been debunked? And George Pell would be right on top of that list.